Hola friends, welcome to the Medicine, Marriage, and Money YouTube channel, the only channel for physicians who want to achieve marital interdependence and financial freedom together. On this channel, you will learn how to show up as the best version of yourself so that you can love intentionally and build a more financially savvy relationship with your spouse. And I am your host, a physician mom, a doctor's wife, a Gottman leader, a certified life and marriage coach, Dr. Kate Mangona. Welcome. Bienvenidos. Now, I was fortunate enough to be featured in this Forbes article that came out on Friday because of my lovely Jessica Abel, PR lady, and one of my business coaches, Sunny Smith, and then the writer of the article, Amy Show. That's how she goes on her social media, but her name is Shoenthal. So I just would like to actually read you guys that article. And then I'm going to give a couple take-home points from the article, and then we're going to move into the 5 steps to increase the amount of love in your relationship that have to go along with my portion in the article, the love language portion. So let me go ahead and start from the beginning. The article is called 3 Experts on How to Set Boundaries That Actually Work by Amy Shoenthal, and this was published in Forbes on, I believe, Friday, May 26th. So 2 days after my 9-year anniversary. So there's a lot of advice that we should be setting some level of personal and professional boundaries. We want to protect our time, our space, and our sanity. But how do we really go about creating or setting and holding tight to our boundaries? 3 experts helping women shift their mindset around personal value, money, and relationships weigh in. I will be expert number 3, so bear with me. I'm going to talk, Sarah Michael's going to first talk about money, personal value, and then we're going to go to the next one, Hilary DeCesare. Okay, so Sarah Michael, she's a coach who focuses on overcoming uncomfortable conversations around money. Her mission is to help women more confidently charge what they're worth while making a difference in people's lives. She thinks the biggest obstacle women have in truly setting boundaries is the primal instinct to feel connected to others. I thought this was interesting, right? Because as a woman, as female-centered, female-focused, many of my listeners are, including you, we are so focused on that connection. I know I am. It is one of my biggest values in life. So we want to be so connected with others. Sometimes we lose connection with ourselves. I'm going to discuss this at the end. So connection equals safety, she says, Sarah Michael. It's the feminine survival instinct that drives us to avoid disconnecting from other people at all costs. Asking for money, charging for what you're worth, and honoring the immense value you provide are potential disconnects, which may make it easy to default to undercharging or giving your services away for free. Now, as physicians, I know many of you are listening. You're like, I just go to work and I'm an employee, I get paid. Some of you are entrepreneurs and you have your own businesses, and maybe you are not charging for people who cancel their appointments at the minute and you're losing things. Losing spots. This can apply to a whole bunch of things. This can also apply to your time, right? If you're a volunteer and if you are feeling undervalued, or the time you give to people who deplete your energy in your life. So think about this money as kind of not only money as in the tangible cash, credit card, but also in your time, how valuable your time is. So Michael points out that this mentality is called the servant's heart mindset. She sees it frequently among her women entrepreneur clients. When clients come to me without boundaries around money, it creates a ripple effect, she says. In an effort to make more money, you have to work harder and put in more hours. This is what causes exhaustion, adrenal fatigue, and burnout. She advises women to release the servant's heart mindset, which gets in the way of charging what you're worth. Many women fear that when they charge too much, others will think of them as greedy or unhelpful. But Michael points out that they could actually be more helpful to others if they had charged the money or had more money to invest in their business, right? When we have more money to invest in what we're doing, we're able to spread the mission. We're able to make the mission grow larger. We're actually able to ripple or double, quadruple, exponentially increase our, and I'm kind of going on a tangent here, our humanitarian efforts as physicians, as entrepreneurs, as mothers and daughters and sisters. So to make more, we have to charge more. And this, again, if we're not talking about money, we could be thinking about the value of our time. If we want to give to more people the time that we do have, we have to evaluate everywhere we are putting our time in. Then we shift a little bit to decessory. Okay, Hillary. She's a business coach and the founder of the Relaunch Company. She encourages her clients to overcome the notion that boundaries prohibit growth. Boundaries do not prohibit growth. Some people think that boundaries are negative. Now, I want you to know 85% of our thoughts in our brain are automatically negative. 85% of the thoughts in your brain are automatically negative thoughts. Okay, my daughter would call this her brain is telling her scary things. And she tells me this a lot. She's very aware. My brain is telling me scary things and I can't get it to turn off. Guess what? This is so normal. We just don't talk about it early enough. If my 5-year-old can detect when her brain is telling her scary, hard things, and especially at night, she says it happens, so can you. Can you figure out, determine those 85% of your thoughts, which ones are negative, and just learn to say delete or you don't belong here, or replace them somehow with better thoughts once you've come to terms that they're not actually facts, right? They're just thoughts and they don't serve us, but it's also normal. So when an opportunity arises, Hillary says, we tend to think it won't work because we lack the tools to allow us to believe that we can succeed. This is where a coach comes in, my friends. Hillary sees the biggest obstacle for most of her clients is the lack of self-confidence. This is especially prominent in the feminine circles that I hang out with. I see it all the time. It is not as prominent in the masculine circles, although it does exist. Okay, so she sees the biggest obstacle, the self-confidence. Many have found themselves in a constant, unsolvable state of inner struggle and stress, the stable line in the sand boundaries that no longer exist. She says that when people start to feel self-doubt creep in, the first thing to do is ask, what isn't working here? And once you identify your biggest challenge, she says the next step is to change the channel in your mind, like you would change a song on the radio. This can be a powerful tool to help you start visualizing what you really want to set boundaries in and around. So now comes my part of the article. Kate Mangona, a certified relationship coach and host of the Medicine, Marriage, and Money podcast. She sees the biggest obstacle in relationships is figuring out what is the most important boundary to set. And let me rephrase that. When I talk about boundaries, as in this article, I'm talking about figuring out what your own needs are and turning off the constant servant's heart mindset of serving everybody else first. Your spouse, whether that's your husband or wife or significant other, your children, your mother, your mother-in-law, your patients. It is okay, and it may feel uncomfortable to ask yourself what you need in the moment first. That is okay. A boundary is not meant for our emotional safety. It is not meant to harm or punish the other person in the relationship. This is a very important point. I often work with recovering people pleasers and perfectionists, as you all may find yourselves. And the difficulty becomes overcoming your own mental trauma on what a boundary is, what our own needs are, or before we can actually set boundaries and then follow them. Mangona points out that each person in the relationship has different needs, and both can and must be accommodated. Mangona often finds herself reminding clients that fulfilling their own needs is not selfish. Let me repeat that. Fulfilling your own needs is not selfish. We must first learn to love ourselves and take care of our own desires before we help others, or else others will feel resentment, anger, and exhaustion. And we will feel it too. And if you have children or littles next to you, they will see it and they will feel it too. They're like little emotional sponges. And what we model, the boundaries we set, the needs we fill, what we model becomes their primary go-to reactions, okay, when it comes to dealing with situations. She worries that too many women place their well-being in the hands of others, like their spouses. And she'd like to see more of them take the reins, or their bosses. They also need to meet their partner's needs. So it's important to meet your partner's needs within reason, right? Reasonable expectations based on where you are in reality. Remember, you did not marry yourself. They're not going to think the same way you think. They're not going to have the same preconceived notions. They're not going to have that anticipatory needs that you have. So if we can accept the fact that our love languages may be different than our spouses, we can learn to receive more love from our spouse. How can we do that? Let me tell you, I'm going to give you the 5 steps now. Once we stop trying to change what our spouse says or how they say it, we can start loving them for exactly as they are. And that's the beauty. Thank you, Amy Shoenthal, for featuring me and 2 other coaches in Forbes. Such an honor. And now I would like to leave you guys with the 5 steps to increase the amount of love in your relationship based off of this article. And the last thing I mentioned, the love languages. So the first thing you need to do is figure out which love language your spouse gives. Okay. How do they give their love? That's number 1. Okay. Number 2 is, how do you receive love? Now, 1 and 2 may be different. And I'm going to remind you what the 5 love languages are. Some of you may know, you've been following me for a while. Some of you may be new to this. The 5 love languages are acts of service, quality time, physical touch, gifts, and words of affection. Now, say your spouse gives love, sends their love to you with acts of service. Yet your love language, and I'm just talking to the primary way, right? We could do all 5, but the primary way is they're constantly doing things for you. But you need and crave and want those words of affection. What do? So you've identified number 1 and number 2, how they give their love and how you prefer to receive it. And then number 3, how can you obtain the love you need if you need the gifts, if you need the words of affection, if you need the physical touch? How can you obtain that for yourself? Or how can you advocate for yourself in a gentle, loving way? You can do it. And how do you want to feel while you do that, right? So number 1, how do they give it? Might be discordant with how you receive it, which is important to know. So how can you give yourself those words of affection? Because we already determined they may be giving you their love through acts of service. They're taking care of the lawn. They're bringing the kids to school. They're cooking. They're bringing home. They're going to work and providing financially. They're doing the taxes. They're planning the vacations. They're doing something. They love doing the acts of service. It could be rewiring the internet in the house, installing the security system, all these little things that they're doing, right? That you may not be thinking about, but you really want the words of affection. So what are you going to need to do? 1, 2, and 3. How you can give that to yourself? Well, You can give it to yourself by speaking those words to yourself in the mirror, journaling those words to yourself. The other thing you do is surround yourself with people who say words like that to you automatically because they're positive and they lift you up. Not that you're going to people to lift you up, right? But you are surrounding yourself with people that just automatically give those words of affection. Maybe it's the podcasts you listen to, the books you read, right? It could be, there are some amazing coaches, Brene Brown, Adam Grant, Faryal Michaud, Sunny Smith. They say these words of affection. If you hang around in these circles, people are always saying them together, right? So find that. If yours is physical touch, figure out what you need. Okay, so that's the third thing you're going to want to do is how you can figure out how to obtain that love language for yourself. I went over physical touch, words of affection. If it's acts of service, maybe you just need to delegate. Maybe you need to give other people things to do so that you don't have to do them. Then you can receive the love from everybody. If it's quality time, that could be a time management issue, right? Not an actual intrinsic problem in your relationship, just a time management thing. If you could sit down and get with a coach and go over calendaring or time management and figure out how to schedule those moments of quality time that count and then make them count, put them in your emotional banking account, that would be amazing. And that would leaves us with gifts. And that's the easiest one to do for yourself. If your love language is gifts and you're not receiving enough of them, so maybe you think, you start giving them to yourself. You stop waiting for other people to give them, especially your spouse, okay? So your spouse's love language is different than the way you receive it. Let's go back to my first example. They give by watering the plants, by filling the car with gas, by making sure everything, all the machines or devices are serviced in your house and updated. They're acts of service. But again, your words of affection, what do? Well, can you learn to receive through acts of service? Yes, 100%. You absolutely can. Now, yes, you still can receive words of affection. Maybe you want to look for that elsewhere, but you absolutely want to start receiving their love instead of just rolling your eyes when they go put air in your tires because they're low and they may, wish that you did it, but then they're doing it. Be grateful, right? Can you put that in your little emotional grateful piggy bank, emotional bank account? They gave your love by going to do something for you in the house or with the kids or with your finances. Do you just take it? A lot of people, after they've been married for so many years or not, take it for granted. We start after you've come out of that honeymoon phase, it can be as short as 3 months for some people. After you've come out of that honeymoon phase, typically it's 6 months to a year, you start to take for granted the things that your spouse, the way they give you love. And then you start to think, you just think it's just normal, but it might not be normal for everybody. And maybe what's normal is still something to be grateful about. So if you can just add it, write it down, take a picture of it, keep a journal, keep a note section in your phone, somehow, so that you build up the love in your mind. That is magical. So number 1, figure out what their love language is. Number 2, figure out what your love language is, how you receive it and how they give it. Number 3, figure out how you receive love to yourself. Number 4, figure out how you can take how they give love and add it to your emotional bank account. And then number 5, once you've learned how to receive both from yourself and from them, then you want to give. You want to give back. Now, this is number 5 for a reason. You don't want to give back when you're not ready, when you're not emotionally capable and full. So you have to wait till you're full. Or you can give back a little bit, right? It can be just like a little balance, a teetering, a seesaw, but don't deplete yourself is what I'm saying. You're not the martyr here. So give. Learn not only how your spouse gives love, learn how they receive it. Your spouse may give their love through acts of service, but they may receive their love through physical touch. So learn, what is it they need? What is working here? Like the article I said, instead of saying what's not working here, I would venture to ask, what is working here? How have I shown my love to you through physical touch. Ask them, what else can I do? How else can I support you in this love language? Okay. Remember, this is the servant's heart. That's not the martyr's heart. This is after you're full. So it's like from that author that tells us about to eliminate the servant's heart. It's like after you've served yourself. It's no longer serving from that. I'm only a servant. I am a martyr here. This is, we are a couple. We are a team. We're going to increase our love by doing these 5 simple steps that revolve around the love languages. And remember to always ask yourself, as the first author in the Forbes article I read said, connection, right? It's a primal feminine instinct. Are we connecting with ourselves? And once you figure out how you receive love and how you give love, you are connecting with yourself. Take it a step further and actually implement that into your relationship with yourself and into your relationship with your partner, and your love will grow and increase like gangbusters, like wildfire. And that is it for today's episode of Medicine, Marriage, and Money. Thank you so much. If somebody you know in your life needed to hear this message or needs to hear this message to enhance their relationship and their connection with themselves or with their spouse or with any loved one, please share this episode. Please leave a review. Reviews are how it puts me up to the closer to the top of the list so that other people who may not know about me hear and watch and hear and listen. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of the feedback and love on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter. So much love, my friends. If you are finding the concepts I teach in these episodes useful and want more in-depth and personalized support for your relationship, consider this your invitation to join me in creating the most connected and intimate relationship with your spouse that you could dream of. Go to www.medicinemarriageandmoney.com right now and download my 18-page medical marriage survival guide and workbook at no cost to you. I also have a 6-day marriage challenge, which goes over the 6 predictors of divorce at no cost to you. These have been known to decrease fighting, rumination, and grudges between you and your loved one. If you want to take it a step farther, really enhance the joy and connection in the most intimate relationship in your life, sign up for my 8-week Making Marriage Work program today at medicinemarriageandmoney.com. Thanks for leaving us a stellar review, subscribing, and sharing with your friends on social media. You have the power to improve someone else's life and marriage simply by sharing this episode. Much love to you and your spouse. You're exactly where you need to be in this moment. Adios, my friends. The content of this episode is not intended to be a substitute for professional, medical, or financial advice. The opinions provided on this episode are those of myself or the invited guest alone. They do not represent the opinions of any particular institution. Always seek the advice of your physician or financial advisor with any questions you may have of a medical condition or financial plan. This is for your entertainment only.